Hey, welcome to Lunch with a Life Coach. I'm Deanna. Yes, life and wellness coach. And today I've got a bit of a different background. It's not a different space. The desk I often record at is just right over there. This is the rest of my home studio space. But yeah, all set up and felt like standing today. So we are going to dive in this episode to a phrase you might be familiar with. That is something I want you to do two things with. One, take away a time management tip, possibly from this phrase. And two, we're going to talk a little bit about why we should question all those different things that we say to ourselves. So that phrase is, if you want something done, do you know the rest? Give it to a busy person. That's right. If you want something done, give it to a busy person. So what inherently does that mean? Inherently, the idea behind that phrase is that if somebody is really busy, they have, we might say, not a lot of time. However, they may need to be a little bit more strategic with their time. They may not have open-ended time. They often have a window of time, not the afternoon to do something, but from 1 o'clock to 1:30 to do something. So inherently in that phrase, folks, I want you to just take away that idea. If time management and organization, getting things done, etc., is something that you struggle with, think about that phrase. If you want something done, give it to a busy person. So that is, I'm not suggesting that you be overwhelmed and busy. That's not the takeaway. The takeaway is, when somebody has tight timelines or tight windows in their calendar, we often have a little bit of a raised sense of urgency. So there isn't, again, the afternoon to do something, but rather there's from this time to this time. So that's the first piece to really take away from this, is that time management tip. Give yourself some boundaries, raise the urgency a little bit, set from this time to this time to get this particular item that you're after, to get that done. Okay, that actually can be a really effective method for a lot of folks in terms of getting those things done, especially if we're kind of really not feeling inspired to do something. If you're not feeling so motivated, just say, start your timer, 1 o'clock to 1:30 or whatever the case is, from this time to that time to get the thing done. Okay. Second, here's what I want you to think about. And I'm going to be talking in the next couple of episodes about this idea, because one of the things that you may or may not know about our brain is a nice, often the analogy is a supercomputer. And I don't love that, because we are not a computer. We are so much more than that kind of idea of that computer. And to use that analogy, because it does make a little bit of sense when we're talking about this idea. Your brain likes patterns. Your brain really likes and will default to the familiar. So what that means is, if you have an experience, often your brain will be like, oh, what's similar to this? Have I done this before? How do we handle this? And it'll just dig back into its programming and dig back into those old files and say, oh, this is how we do this. This is how we approach this situation. Let's just do that again. Or we might say, hey, I heard this new idea, or what seems like a new idea, and I have always thought XYZ about this idea. So I'm just going to think that way again. So there is this efficiency, which can be useful, right? If we sort of, if you're driving your car, we want to know that if you have ever had somebody cut in front of you, you brake or swerve or whatever the situation calls for. And that happens again, that your reaction time gets quicker because your brain has experienced it before and helps, etc. I mean, there's more to that, but kind of give us a rough idea. But here's the big thing for us to think about. And I knew I was going to get a little bit riled up for this one. That's why I wanted to stand up today. Here's the problem with this idea. If you are looking to grow, to develop, to kind of move past some of the old patterns that no longer serve you, that you've become aware that, in particular situations, you behave in a certain way that you just don't want to anymore. And there's no judgment. We all get that. I mean, all of us, we're like, this is not the way I wanted to react. This is not what I want. This does not serve me. I want to figure out how to break out of this pattern. That's what we're talking about, right? Brain loves patterns, and One of the ways we get beyond that pattern and create new patterns, which is new programming, new development for our brain and learning, is to question if this is still true. So when you were 6 years old, and excuse me, something had happened. You had I was going to say Saturday morning cartoons. I don't know if you were all of an age that I know we only had cartoons on Saturday morning. You had to prioritize your cartoon time. It wasn't just streaming whenever you wanted. So if you spent your Saturday morning watching cartoons and sort of, we would call it binge watching now. We didn't call it that then. We just watched cartoons. And that's something that sort of became a pattern. You really like that, you look forward to it, etc. And then, now you're 16 and doing that, falling back into that pattern of choosing to binge watch cartoons, whatever the show would be when you're 16. And then so on. You sort of have that pattern again. And now let's say you're, 26, 36, 46, 56, 66, or whatever. And you're going, this doesn't serve me anymore. So one of the reasons now maybe when you're 6 years old, this isn't the thing, but one of the reasons we watch TV, we do these other things can be, enjoyment, etc., and can be a coping strategy in one of the ways that we actually deal with difficult emotions, difficult situations, etc., right? So if you have become aware that the, streaming, to use the cartoon analogy, but streaming or scrolling on your phone or whatever that idea might be, if you become aware that that's something that you're doing and it's not serving you anymore, we need to make sure we do something to break the pattern. For example, if every day, let's say you get home from work, you're really struggling with the enjoyment of your career, work's really difficult, customers aren't really, being so friendly these days, and you get home and escape into your phone and scrolling, and then all of a sudden you think, holy moly, like 2 hours has gone by. The pattern, the routine that you've built is one of those things that we need to interrupt. Again, if it's something that you want to change. So we pause. We've got to not allow ourselves to go on autopilot. And this would apply to any change that you're trying to make, right? We do things on autopilot. Brain likes familiar. We continue to do that. And if you want to change it, we've got to become aware of it. We've got to ask ourselves some questions. What might those questions be? For example, you come home, you have those feelings of, goodness, I hate my job, people were nasty, etc., into the phone. Well, I'm not saying that we want to get rid of all of that, because maybe you do need a little bit of downtime, right? Maybe you do need to look at cute videos of dogs and connect with friends, etc. And maybe 30 minutes in, you set a timer. And so bing, 30 minutes. And you're going to ask yourself, is this the best choice for the next hour for me to spend my time? Is this serving me in the way that I want it to serve me? I want you to think about getting out of autopilot. Now, there's some things we want to run on autopilot. We want to use that brain's tendency to run on autopilot and use the familiar when you're building routines to work out, when you're building, wanting to cook dinner without having to use a recipe, all of that, right? And when we run on autopilot, is that what we want for the rest of our life? And times we see friends and family, or we go out, or whatever the case is, do we want to be running on autopilot? Do you want to spend your after work time scrolling, doing the same thing? And you know what? If it feels like the same thing day after day after day, well, because it is, because you're running on autopilot. You are in control of being able to change that. That's what I really want you to think about today. We talked about a common phrase: you want something done, give it to a busy person. That is programming that we have been raised with. We make an assumption in there that if I'm, going to manage my time, I got to be really busy, and I got to do this thing, and I got to fit in this time, et cetera, or this activity into this time. And so again, there's some usefulness in the time management hack in there, but question that. And that's just one example, right? What are some of those other pieces we might hear? Money doesn't grow on trees. The love of money is the root of all evil, and all of those different things, right? You should go to college after high school. You should make sure that, you call your whomever in your family, even though that person's really toxic, it doesn't treat you nicely. What are those things that you say to yourself that we keep doing on autopilot? Everything that we, pops up in our head has come from some kind of experience. And so I want you to think about, I should back up, come from some kind of experience or created. And oftentimes, if we haven't done a lot of learning and creativity work on our own, all of the ideas, almost all the ideas, are planted by somewhere or something else. So we want to make sure that we're just questioning, because some of those ideas are awesome, but we are questioning some of those. Is this the right autopilot? Is this the right saying? Is this the right thing for me where I am right now? Maybe it served you 10 years ago, and quite possibly it doesn't serve you now. So questioning those things. And one of the other ways that we just get ourselves out of that might feel like a bit of a funk, or might feel like, again, that kind of autopilot. No, you know what? Life is short, folks. We are all, and I say this a lot on this podcast and elsewhere, we're all dying, right? We are all marching toward the end of our life. And is that what you want for the next X number of years that you're given? Do you want to be running on autopilot? I sure don't. So what are the things? Let's try to be a little bit more mindful, be a little bit more present. Get that phone out of your face. Learn something new. What have you always wanted to do, right? When you were little, what did you want to do? Did you want to learn how to hit a baseball? Did you want to learn how to sing? Did you want to dance? Did you want to be an artist? I don't know, but why can't you try those things now? Right? We are so tied to like, well, I'm not going to be a professional artist, so why bother? That's not what I'm talking about. We are looking to say, hey, I have really always wanted to, I don't know, play piano. Great. Then you know what? Start to look up how to learn how to play the piano. Go to the local library. Find some other YouTube videos. If it's within budget, go to take some piano lessons. Like, folks, I really want you, all of those things help us get out of that autopilot, right? I want you, and I'm cheering you on to learn something new, try something new, challenge your brain a little bit more, right? And just get ourselves moving a little bit. Because what's also really cool is when we start to challenge our brain a little bit more, etc., we start to improve our brain health. When we start to improve our brain health, we can start moving our body a little bit more. Also, start moving our body a little bit more to improve our physical health, right? So the longer we run on autopilot and don't learn anything new and don't move and don't challenge our brain, the shorter that lifespan. And not only lifespan, folks, we're also talking about health span. So I don't want to live to be 100, but not be able to, do the things I want to do. I want to live healthy to, I don't know, 100, 110, who knows, right? So I am cheering you on to try new things this week, to question the things you automatically say to yourself, to break yourself out of those autopilot routines that aren't serving you, and reach out if you have questions, if there's something that you're struggling with and you're like, how do I do in this situation, or how to do that situation. And as always, let me know if there's other topics on here on Lunch with a Life Coach you'd like to chat about, or over on the Find Your Fit with Deanna podcast. I would be happy to create some episodes for you. All right. See you soon.